Okay, to be perfectly honest, if this film aired when I was 16 years old, it would have been my favourite film. Like, I would have loved this. Just unconditionally loved it. But it did not come out when I was 16. 16-year-old me did not get to embrace this film. Instead, it was met by the slightly more cynical eyes of 23-year-old me. I think it's important we address one of the central concerns of the film, which is feminism. Now, I really didn't think there was anything to dispute here. Like, I thought it was common knowledge that for a long time, women had very little rights and a very little say in their own lives. And feminism ultimately helped us get those rights. But the reason I bring this up is because so many comments on every single Enola Holmes video are angry people who are furious that the subject is even touched on. How dare we talk about women's issues in a period when they were a central focus? So people's main point of contention with this is the fact that in the film, Millie Bobby Brown and other characters who we'll come to later all don't want to get married. They want to go be independent women. And people see this as propaganda. Yeah. And I really do understand the controversy because these women don't want to get married. And if they don't want to get married, they might want, like, jobs and, like, independence. Oh my, I dare not even say it. But what I find hysterical about these comments is that they don't seem to grasp the point that a large majority of this film is dedicated to men's rights, particularly men's rights to vote. While feminism and women's issues are a key theme, the motive of the movie, the actual main focus, aside from Enola's mother, is the vote that everyone's talking about, which would grant more men the right to vote. The film is set in 1884, which in Victorian Britain was the year of the third stage of Reform Act, and if this law passed, it meant that 60% of men would be able to vote. Ergo, men's rights. Women haven't even been talked about yet. Right? We're still trying to get men there. But that's the point of the film. The protagonist of the film, the feminists, want to get men the right to vote. All the goodies in this film want men to be able to vote. Enola, the rich boy, Sherlock. The only people that don't are the bad guys who are also sexist. So like Mycroft, the old lady at the end, random people in the street, I guess. There's only really two villains. But for some reason, this genre of sexist men just ignore that fact altogether. Anyway, I was going to make a point about why I think the movie's feminism is a little weak, but it appears to have angered the YouTube commenters, so maybe it's doing a better job than I thought it was. And to be perfectly clear, the film does try to show women's rights and women's struggle for rights in 1884. My only issue is that it's seen as like a rare thing, like a quirky girl thing. Like only the quirkiest of girls are out fighting for women's rights. Everyone else is out braiding seashells. And it turns out later on that the mum is in this judo fight club thing, and any woman that's not in the judo fight club seems to be evil. Like, I would have loved to have seen one character in this film who doesn't like fighting, but she also just wants more independence, or like a role that doesn't involve mothering or like wifing. I would have loved that, but we didn't get it because in this film, to be a feminist, you have to know judo. I should clarify, feminist wasn't a term that was widely used in 1884, but another term was. I talked about this in my Dracula video, but women who desired roles outside the household were often called new women because they were a new generation of women, a woman 2.0, if you will. The film never explicitly says it, but it's very clear that Enola and her mum are coded as new women because of the way they dress, their choice of activities, even things like cycling, which was considered a new woman thing. Yes, I'm being 100% genuine when I tell you that bicycles were in fact once a feminist issue. Therefore, if you ride a bicycle, you're a feminist and you're embracing feminist ideals. Obviously, at the time, there were a lot of people who were against the new women. Women cycling, what someone think of the children? But there was also some support for women's rights. And this, my friends, leads me to my next question. Are we doing questions? What on earth is Enola's mum doing? When I was 10, I ran my own detective agency. I was the original Enola Holmes. So I decided to do some investigation. I looked up the name Eudora to see if there are any clues hidden there. Like if her name was an anagram for woman or girl power. But all I found is that her name is an anagram for roadie. Potentially because she's always on the road. Here's what we know about the mother. We know she's dangerous, and we can tell she's pro-woman because of that one scene when they were all doing judo. Because once again, that's how you show a woman is a strong female character. You have her fight for dominance. But is what she's doing ever explained? Who is the mum? Why does she have bombs? We know she plans to use them, but why? Why? The bomb subplot wasn't even in the books. They just added it to the film to not resolve it, I guess. So the film starts with the mum's disappearance, and Enola's far less famous brothers, Sherlock and Mycroft, appear to solve the mystery. As it turns out, Mycroft is the villain of the piece. He's a big old sexist, and he wants to send Enola to boarding school so she can stop being into judo and more into weak woman activities like braiding seashells, which they mention about 5 times, and I'm still not sure why. Why is it such a big deal if people want to braid seashells? Also, how do you braid a seashell? The school head teacher comes to visit Enola, and Mycroft introduces her as a friend. But there is just a weirdness between them, and I don't know the reason why they have so much romantic tension. Is it because they're both mean? Like, they're both villains and they belong together out of, like, hatred? They hate women so much. They're just perfect for each other. Anyway, the head teacher makes a horrible impression. One of the first 3 things she does is slap Enola across the face. So naturally, Enola decides to go solve the mystery of her mother on her own. Mycroft storms into her room to get her ready for boarding school that morning, and he pulls off the covers, but Enola is not there. Instead, there is like a pillow propped up to look like Enola, and a funny caricature of him on the bed. And he gets so mad. He does not like that photo. Like, he's 42 years old, and finding this is the worst day of his life. But as Mycroft is crying because a 16-year-old drew a funny picture of him, Enola is disguised as a boy and on a train to London, where she finds a teen boy jump out of some luggage. He explains that he is not just a teen boy, but he is a rich teen boy with a really long name that I have forgotten. His whole family are looking for him, and Enola notices a man with a bowler hat on the train who is also searching for him. She thinks it might be like a family member or a private investigator, but alas, it's an assassin. Enola and the Marquess manage to get away, and they bond while jumping off a great height, which is the mark of any successful teen romance. But sadly, they have to part ways at London, where Enola tracks down some of her mum's secret society friends. It's still 100% unclear what the secret society do. We know they like women. We know they do judo day in, day out. And they even fight with Enola to prove again that she has girl power. Then Enola works out some clues and discovers the secret society's secret storage unit. But all that's there is bomb equipment, and it's just never, addressed. I guess it's fine. Just a secret society wanting to blow stuff up. It's grand. Enola is just about to run out of there and do something about the bomb equipment when the bowler hat man appears again. He does not look too happy and waterboards her. He ducks her tiny teenage head into a big bowl of water, and the only way she gets out is by pretending to die. Then they fight some more, and she manages to get stuck back in the bomb room. And at the start of the film, when the head teacher was trying to get her ready for boarding school, she made a point about this whalebone corset. And then when Nola's in London and she goes into this dress shop, the dressmaker again makes a point of the whalebone corset. So we have a recurring theme of this whalebone corset, and I'm sure you can see where this is going, because the man tries to stab her, but her whalebone corset stops her from being harmed. Then Enola accidentally blows the whole secret society storage unit up. It's never revealed why they had a room full of bombs, and the only time we hear about it is when Sherlock is talking to Enola and says, "Oh, I saw your handiwork at the secret society secret storage unit." But he isn't concerned about the bombs, what they were going to be used for, why the mother is involved in this secret society. Instead, Sherlock is just really impressed that Enola managed to follow the clues and find the secret society storage unit before he did. I'm not gonna lie, I do love the relationship between Enola and Sherlock though. Like, you can tell he does support her, he's just passive about it. There's a scene at the start of the film, they've only known each other for a couple of days, and he says one of my favourite lines in the whole film.
"You're being emotional. It's understandable, but unnecessary."
And he tells her this because he thinks she's been too emotional. And I really liked it because I thought it would be the theme of the film. Like, are emotions good? Are they bad? Can you be a strong female woman who does judo but still cries? But alas, that's not the case. In the middle of the film, we hear a story about Enola risking her life to save the life of a little lamb, thus letting her emotions get the best of her. But she decides this is a positive thing, and it spurs her on to embrace her emotional attachment that she formed with the Marquise from earlier. And she decides to embrace her emotions by going to warn him that the bowler hat man is after them still, and his life is in danger. Which, fine. She decides to embrace her emotions, but hasn't she always? The lamb story and her attachment to her mum surely proves she's never been able to fully detach herself. Then again, she does find the Marquess, but Mycroft finds them both, and they're in a situation where only one of them can escape, so Enola lets the Marquess go because it's his life that's in danger. She basically sacrifices her own independence to save him, and it's all very sweet. But again, she didn't really learn anything. I don't think there's a version of her in this film that wouldn't have had that same response. So Mycroft takes her off to the boarding school, and they're in the smallest carriage known to man, and they're sitting like uncomfortably close. Like, it just feels very cramped, and I think it's probably a metaphor because Enola's feeling cramped, but it made me feel cramped, and I just wish I didn't. I'm very claustrophobic. But Mycroft starts screaming at her and saying all this stuff like, "Women suck," and "I hate women," and "the goal of feminism is to destroy the family, and from day one it's been funded by the Rockefeller Foundation." I'll be honest, I can't remember exactly what they said, but the YouTube comments from the trailer actually sum it up pretty well. So Enola's feeling very cramped, and she's being yelled at, and she starts crying. But all Mycroft does is get louder and louder and screams at her and screams at her. And I really, really thought they were going to bring the line back here. Like, the one.
"You're being emotional. It's understandable, but unnecessary."
But she could have said that to Mycroft and it would have been incredible. Not just because it would have shut him up, but because it could have meant that she was ready to give up her emotions. And maybe she could decide that emotions are bad because they led to her feeling heartbreak over losing her mother, and then made her feel concern for the Marquess, who she has absolutely no contact with now. And it's because of her emotions that she's going to this boarding school, because if she was detached, she could have just ran off and let the Marquess just die. Also, Mycroft was taking her to a place she absolutely did not want to go, where she was going to learn to not be herself. And she could have decided to cope with it. She would have to turn into Sherlock and cut off her emotions and become someone else just to get through it. And for a while, she could have been lonely and sad and not wanted to make any friends at the boarding school because emotions are bad and it's better to be alone, and she has learned this now. Then Sherlock could have appeared and told her that emotions might actually have some value because it led to her being ahead of the case. Like, it's because of her emotions that she got to the secret society storage unit before him. And Enola's lesson could be that emotion and connections are valuable and we can learn from them and be strengthened by them instead of needing to detach from them and shove them away. But alas, none of that happened. Mycroft just kind of yells at her. She goes to the finishing school. Then the rich boy saves her. She doesn't really learn anything except that other girls are dumb and she is quirky and special. Okay, I know Enola Holmes is not trying to be a feminist masterpiece. It's a movie for teenagers. Teenagers will watch this and think sexism is bad. Enola Holmes is a hero. And those things are very true and very good. So I'm not trying to be overly critical, but I just found the role of other women in this film a little uncomfortable. So in the finishing school, there's a bit where Enola is struggling to eat soup for some reason. Maybe she's never seen it before. And two girls start laughing. And at first I thought, great, this is the Fred and George Weasley of the school. They're going to wreak some havoc, they're going to rebel together, they're going to bond with Enola in some way. Like, they clearly don't want to be here, they're going to bond over that. But as it turns out, the girls weren't laughing with her, but they were laughing at her because she cannot eat soup properly and that means she has failed as a human being. My issue with this is just, like, why do all the girls and all the women who aren't in an underground bomb making judo fighting organization suck? Like, they suck. Every other woman that's not in the judo group sucks. All the other girls at the boarding school seem to want to be there. And even if that's true, it doesn't mean they're all bad people. Some girls might want to learn to braid seashells, and that's okay. You don't have to know judo to be a strong female character. Do not worry about Enola though, she escapes the boarding school, and when she goes, she leaves another funny caricature drawing of the head teacher. But this time, it's of Mycroft kissing her hand. And it's really funny because she's laughing at the head teacher and the fact that a man is attracted to her. Like Mycroft, she is utterly offended and disgusted. And I just am not sure why. Like, the couple's not pay to get that done? I don't understand. Like, why is this such an issue? Also, surely the reason to vilify this woman is because she's sexist and a bad person and she literally slapped a child in her first 5 minutes of screen time. But no, Enola's main issue with her is the fact that Mycroft kind of fancies her. And that's hilarious because she does not deserve love. Also, can someone please explain how they got Enola out the boarding school? Because like the bomb threats, and like the secret society, and like the mother's disappearance, it's just never explained. Because, oh boy, could you imagine a film where they actually explain how characters do things? So if you haven't seen it, what basically happens is Enola hears a knock on her door, and she answers it, and there's a man carrying a very comically large basket, and it's so comically large that, like, he can't carry it by himself, it requires two people. But they only hired one person for the job, so he's holding one end of it, the other end is out of frame, and then the camera cuts and you see Enola carrying the other end of it with him. And that's not really relevant to the point, I just thought I would mention it. So it's really obvious who's in the basket. It's the Marquess from earlier, and he's vowed to get Enola out. The only issue is they don't really have a plan to get out. So Enola turns to the camera, a la Dora the Explorer, and asks the audience how she's going to do this.
Let me think. Do you have any ideas?
Then the scene cuts between shots of Enola in the basket and shots of the boy struggling to carry the comically large basket. And you think both things are happening at the same time because you really have no reason not to. But then the boy gets caught by the headmistress, and the headmistress asks him to take the package to her office. And he does that. And then the camera cuts to the head teacher opening the box. And you think, oh no, Enola will be in there. But she's not. She is gonola. You don't know how she got out of the basket or if she was in the basket at all. You just know that she is now driving away with the boy in the head teacher's automobile. So even though they're both on the run from Bowler Hat Man who wants to kill them, they decide to go back to the boy's house. It's here we find out why the Bowler Hat Man wants to kill him. And it's because of the vote. As he is one of the non-sexist main characters, the Marquess wants poor people to be able to vote. He would like it if all people could vote. But somehow society has made him the deciding voice. Like, out of a parliament of like 300 people, he is 151st vote that they need to pass the reform. Now, this vote would affect rich people most of all because until the Reform Act started passing, rich people basically controlled politics because they were the only ones that were legally allowed to vote. It's because of this fact that Enola realises it's actually one of the Marquess's family members that are out to kill him. She thinks that it's his uncle that wants to kill him because the Gran was nice to him earlier and his mum just doesn't seem like the murderous type because we've never seen any woman be violent in this film. They get back to the Marquess's house and the man is waiting there to kill them. Enola and the boy manage to knock him out violently. Like, there is an unsettling amount of blood and it does look like Enola straight up bludgeoned him to death. Enola, the Marquess, and the Bowler Hat Man are all lying on the floor with various amounts of blood on them. And instead of walking towards them and helping, the Gran walks towards them and picks up the gun. Now, I might have expected her to pick up the gun. I might have expected her to point that gun. But did I expect her to shoot the gun, flinging this teenage boy across the room like a wet paper towel? Nah. Nothing on this earth could have prepared me for that. When the Marquess got shot, my first instinct was that the whalebone corsets from earlier were making another appearance. Like, he decided to put one on because he saw how well it worked on Enola and it managed to save his life. And they were going to make some statement where it's like, oh yes, you can wear female clothes and they can empower you if you wish. Or something along those lines.
The corset, a symbol of repression to those who are forced to wear it. But for me, who chooses to wear it, the bust enhancer and the hip regulators will hide the fortune my mother has given me.
The actual reason he survives is because he managed to shove a bit of armour up his shirt and that protects him. Which is fine, I guess. Like, personally, I would have preferred it to be another whalebone corset, but I guess I can't have everything I want. Now, another issue I have with this is that he didn't think that they were going to run into the Bowler Hat Man. They thought they were running away from the Bowler Hat Man because he'd gone to the school to rescue Enola and planned to just run for it. So why did he put the armour on? Like, I would understand the corset because a corset is made for day wear. But armour's just made for night wear and he wasn't planning on being a knight. Did that even make sense? That was horrible. Forget I said that. You might be wondering where Enola's mum is during all this. And that's what I was wondering too. Like, I really thought they were going to have a plot twist where Enola's mum appeared from the shadows and saved them from the gun nut granny. I thought there was going to be a reveal where it turns out that the secret society that makes bombs and does judo have been trying to protect the Marquess all along, because if more men can vote, it means that women maybe have a chance in the next few years. But no, the Gran just kind of shoots the boy and then puts the gun down. Like, like she just doesn't know how to refill it, so she just gives up. Like, she recognises she's old, she had one shot, she shot it, and then that was her done. I did enjoy the fact that Enola solved the mystery before Sherlock, though.
How did your sister get there before you?
I thought that was kind of fun, because she used emotions to do that, whereas Sherlock had his switched off. But then that stopped making sense halfway through the film because Sherlock started to grow attached to Enola and Enola really never let go of her emotions. So, and if you're still wondering what happened to Enola's mum, then join the club. Enola tries to send a coded message to her mother in the newspaper, but she does not reply. Sherlock does though. Sherlock hits her up and is like, "Hi Enola, it's your mom. Come meet me in London town centre." But Enola's smart and she knows it's not her mum replying, she knows it's Sherlock. She doesn't want to meet up with him because she's afraid that Mycroft will send her away. But we hear from Sherlock that Sherlock wants to adopt Enola instead. So Enola doesn't have to worry about being sent away to boarding school. But she doesn't get to find that out because she doesn't go up and talk to Sherlock. They don't even exchange any letters, any secret messages. She just leaves out a childhood toy to let Sherlock know that she was there. And she sees Sherlock pick it up, so she knows that Sherlock knows that she's there. So they both know that they're there and that they want to talk, but they just don't talk or even just write each other a wee note. There's not even like a little post-it note that says, "Hi, what's up?" Oh, also, none of the villains in this film seem to face any repercussions. I don't know if the Gran goes to jail. I don't know if the bowler hat man is dead or in jail. I actually genuinely believe that Enola killed him. But Mycroft and the head teacher, who were the sexist villains, the worst they ever got was like the little drawing Enola did. Like that is the extent of their punishment. No one even throws a pie in their face, you know? Nothing like that. They just go on living their sexist ways. And do you know what? Like, fair. They're going to make like 3 more of these, so why not? I just can't believe that a man got bludgeoned to death, Enola almost drowned, and the Marquess got shotgunned in the chest, and Mycroft just gets mildly irritated at a drawing. I mean, in fairness, he was eaten in the Hunger Games, so maybe that is justice. We get half a scene at the very end when the mum appears at Enola's hotel room and they talk. But they talk about absolutely nothing. They don't explain about the bombs or the secret society, where the mum was. They just kind of say that like, oh well, Enola's learned independence, but she's learned not to be alone. I still don't know who the mum wanted to blow up. And I guess we never will. Oh, I'm obviously kidding about the last part. Like, we're definitely getting a sequel. This is a Netflix movie made by Netflix, starring 2 of Netflix's main actors. There is no way we're not getting a sequel. So I look forward to it. I hope more bullets are stopped by ivory corsets and more secret societies are go throughout the film unexplained. But overall, this is just a fun movie. I don't mean to poke holes in it. I just plan to like gently jab at the holes. But let me know what you think, and if you do know what half this film was about, please let me know. I would be delighted to hear about it. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and feel free to watch some more videos if you fancy. I promise that they're less kind of wordy. I feel like this was a very wordy video. I say less words than the other ones. Oh, I also found out that £5 in 1884 is equivalent to £625. Every time Enola pays someone a fiver to take their clothes off, she's actually given them 600 quid.